Hello and welcome to this very special show on Bloomberg TV India. After being in India for over a century, Nestle is going through its worst ever crisis. And in the eye of the storm is the man himself joining us today, Suresh Narayana, the MD of Nestle India. Thank you so much, Suresh, for joining us. It's been just over about 5 weeks since you took over and came to India. When the going gets tough, the tough get going at this point in time. How's it been?
Sure. I think, Mehak, I must say that it feels great to be back. I've been out of the country for a while, and yes, I have come into a tough spot for the company. But I'm having three feelings at this moment. One, of course, it's very challenging.
Sure.
At times stressful, but I think it's giving me a lot of courage. It's giving me a lot of humility, and it is also giving me a very strong lesson in the fact that people and relationships and the positiveness of how you approach a problem, however difficult and tough it may be, is probably one of the secrets of coming out of it.
Right. Suresh, before I get into, Maggi, etc., what I really want to understand from you is, the management mantra says never let a crisis go to waste.
Yes.
Are we going to see a big change in Nestle India as well in terms of how the company is poised at this point in time? What the reach out has been, maybe the other pillars as well, other than Maggi product pillars. Is the company going through a change after the turmoil that it's been in?
Sure. I think Mehak, you're right. Never waste a good crisis, as has always been said. And I think there are really three dimensions to it. The dimensions to it are, number one, the fact is that 25% of our business comes out of Maggi, 25 to 30%. It's a big part of our business. And I think restoration of that is going to be a key part of the business mandate and the commercial mandate that I have as a CEO. The second part is, obviously, we have other elements of the portfolio. We have got businesses in nutrition, we've got businesses in milks, we've got businesses in chocolates and confectionery, in coffee and beverages. Now, obviously, this is the opportunity for us to also innovate more, communicate more, activate more, and leverage.
Which of these pillars is, going to prop up the company till we see Maggi back in action?
I'm a pragmatist, Mehak. So, I don't have a magic wand that everything will turn back into a rosy picture immediately. But I'm confident, in a very quiet but in a humble way, that we have got opportunities actually across the segments, be it in nutrition, be it in milk, be it in, for example, coffee. Coffee Nescafe is the iconic brand for instant coffee in the country.
Right.
In some parts of the world, like in Egypt, it becomes actually the surrogate name for instant coffee is Nescafe. So there are opportunities in different.
So we're going to see a larger product mix coming in from the coffee vertical as well in the coming days. I know you can't give out too much in terms of competition, but give us a little sense of where the company would be heading.
Sure, the company would be really looking at. We have globally over 2,000 brands. So the challenge for me is not the challenge of seeking opportunity, but it is the challenge of seeking focus. So I'm looking at it from the point of view of saying that take each of my segments. Now, whether it is Maggi itself, there are opportunities within Maggi that goes beyond the noodles that we have today.
Sure.
There are opportunities in milk that go beyond the milk products that we have, in nutrition, in chocolates and confectionery. So what we will try and do is to take big opportunities as we see it, basis consumer insight, basis the kind of commercial propositions that we put together, basis the journey that we want to take as an organization into the future, focus on those launches and come up with a much stronger and a more robust portfolio as we go forward.
Fair enough, Suresh. So for the analysts and investors who are watching us and watching you speak, there is going to be a larger mix in the coming days from various verticals, is what I'm understanding and what I'm getting from you at this point in time. Let me shift focus now towards the legal aspects of what has happened. There have been two judgments which have come both in favor of Nestle, the High Court judgment, of course, and then there's been the Supreme Court judgment, which was sort of a cherry on a top on a larger regulation regulatory level as well. But the road is still tough ahead. It's not as simple with the judgment coming in. I believe that there was 8 weeks which was given in which tests had to happen in 3 different labs. Could you tell us what the status of that is and what the road ahead in the next couple of weeks is going to be?
I would just like to use this opportunity, Mehak, to really highlight 3 things that I believe is important. Number one is that there is no victor, there is no vanquished. There is no sense of elation or victory in what has happened.
But I'm sure there's a sense of relief, Suresh, from what the situation
There is certainly the ray of hope that we can move forward in the context of what we are. This is kind of, in a sense, it is vindicating some of the stands that the company had taken, in fact, in the court and with the FSSAI. And I think it's also very clear to me, and I think Nestle's stand is very, very clear on this, that the primacy for food quality and safety in this country is the regulator. So there is no question of walking away from that ambit. Now, obviously, the matter is in the High Court. The High Court will be giving us a guidance on the sampling process. Then we take it to 3 accredited laboratories across the country. We have the first testing done. All going well, we start the manufacturing, do 1 more rounds of test, and hopefully I have the product in the hands of the consumers for whom really this whole journey is being undertaken.
Sure. So the first round of testing is over out of the 3 rounds which is required.
Not as yet, Mehak.
It's underway.
I think what's happening is the court, in fact, gave us 6 weeks of time.
Okay.
So there were some clarifications that are being sought in terms of the number of samples to be taken. That clarification would be available to us relatively soon. Then the sampling process happens. The analysis process happens, and I hope that by the end of September we manage to get the analysis as well. Then, all going well, we start the manufacturing, do a round of testing, which is basically 5 samples per variant of what we produce.
Okay.
And if that happens, then it's on to commercial.
So that's interesting to know at this point in time that you will be going ahead and testing the variants as well, and not just bring back first Maggi and then look at bringing back the variants, because I believe they also have to go through the approval and testing period. So it's going to be the entire portfolio of Maggi coming back together, is it?
Mehak, absolutely. You know, the pillar on which Nestle stands is quality. Quality is trust. We have had the belief, we continue to have the belief, thanks to all that we do from raw material from farm to fork, that our products are 100% safe for consumers. They were, they continue to be, and they will be. So as far as I'm concerned, I think all that we are putting together as an organization is to ensure that the best experience to the consumer and the safety of the product is never ever compromised at any point in time.
I have to ask you this on the quality bit from the consumer point of view, because there has been a fear psychosis, a question mark as far as consumers are concerned, especially to do with packaged foods now going ahead. There was a meeting on 4th June between FSSAI and the then FSSAI CEO and then the management which was there with Nestle, and that's when we had the very next day or the day after that you had the press conference. Nestle India held a press conference. You recalled, all of close to 30,000 tons of Maggi, 4 crores gone overnight. My question is, when FSSAI did raise an issue, whether it had to do with labeling, whether it had to do with lead content at that point in time, Nestle didn't think that they should go back and sort of reply to what FSSAI had said at that point in time. Why just hold a press conference, recall goods? As a consumer, how would you, just make us understand the logic behind that?
Mehak, just I think a few points I need to reiterate. First, as Nestle, we privilege, we focus on face-to-face interactions with the regulator and with other stakeholders.
Fair enough.
So it's a bit, it's not true to say that we were not engaging in that conversation.
No, not at all. I don't mean that.
That conversation was going on. The issues that came up was the issue regarding the lead. And there, what have we said? We have said something that's very, very simple and clear. There are three aspects to the whole testing process. Infrastructure, because lead and heavy metal testing requires the right kind of infrastructure. We have equipment that measures it in parts per billion against standards of parts per million. Number two, there's a protocol of doing the test. And number three is the competence of the people who are doing the test.
Fair enough.
All that we said was the results of the laboratories that you had were from non-accredited laboratories. Those tests cannot be seen and deemed to be reliable in terms of establishing the veracity and the safety of the products. And so let us go ahead and have a dialogue on this. Now, the fact is that between that time and subsequently, the matter unfortunately got considerably blown out of proportion when Nestle took the view saying that, look, here consumer confidence is being affected. There is a confusion in the minds of the consumer that there is something on the product, and therefore we go ahead for with the withdrawal process. And soon we also have the ban that is put on us.
Sure. Let me rephrase this, on what I'm trying to understand behind the move. Let me rephrase this in terms of when regulatory dialogue started, when there was a question mark which was asked or put, or a show cause notice which was given. Did Nestle, in terms of did they choose to respond to the show cause notices of the regulator before coming ahead and removing Maggi from, or recalling Maggi at that point in time? And I'm sure there was a solid logic behind that as well.
Sure.
That's the only thing I'm trying to understand, and where I'm coming from. I don't want to delve on the past too much. We have a lot more to look forward to the future on where we are heading. Just wanted to understand from a consumer point of view, because that's been something that a lot of consumers have asked.
Absolutely. Look, two clear clarifications I want to give. Firstly, you talk about a show cause notice. That's the due process of law. One of the factors that we have preferred in the High Court is that due justice on that matter has not been done.
Okay.
We did not receive a show cause notice that clearly and ambiguously has led to the judgment that says that the principles of natural justice have not been transacted on this.
No show cause notice was sent at all from the regulator. It was just a meeting and verbal meeting that happened, and that's what's led to the chain of events that went on.
Now,
let me move on to a larger picture here, because I think both in terms of government policies, regulatory framework, and even the industry environment at this point in time, there's a big change which is underway. What I want to understand from you is, because you are a global company which has been there for many years, is it easier to subscribe to global standards of testing, labeling, than what we have currently in India?
Look, any regulatory framework has got three elements to it. The first element is the robustness and the contemporaneous of the regulatory standards. Second is the whole process and infrastructure of testing. And third is the forward-looking nature of the regulatory mechanism that we have in the country. Now, obviously, in the context of India, some of the confusion has come about because of a certain degree of opacity in terms of how you interpret what is to be interpreted. And in fact, if you look at, for example, the issue of the product approval mechanism that came up in front of the Supreme Court, I think there have been some issues and impediments that have very clearly been raised in that direction. I firmly believe, not only as a professional but as Nestle, that if we have a clarity on not only the regulatory standards, on which incidentally we have had no issues on, but if we have clarity in terms of the process, the veracity and the authenticity of the testing mechanisms that we follow, I believe that it is the right of the regulator to monitor food quality and safety in this country, period.
All right.
I'm not asking any questions on that. All I'm saying is, have a standard define the standard, have the equipment, have the protocol, have the people who measure it according to what the standards are, hey presto, you have the beginnings of a very robust and a very credit-worthy regulatory mechanism.
Is there a trust deficit at this point in time between manufacturers and the government?
Look, as a company, we have had no debate at all on the primacy of the government as far as regulatory affairs are concerned. There's no debate about it. I respectfully submit that I'm not going to have any debate about it. The question that we have is one of interpreting what is intended into action.
But you do have a Make in India campaign on one hand. There has to be, I'm sure the entire industry, the food processing industry, is shaken up at this point in time. Is there a trust deficit? What would you, let me ask you this, what would you want from the government at this point in time to make the road smoother? There is, there are sections within the government which have tried to sort of smoothen this road and make it right quickly. I'm coming from there.
Look, in my opinion, there are really three things that we request in all that we seek. Number one is to have a clear set of regulatory guidelines, to have principles and practices and procedures that are put in place. We've been as a company here for 103 years. We have invested 2,500 crores in the last couple of years. For us, India is important. You know, the dil ki dhadkan as far as my company is concerned is this country. So there is no question of walking away from that opportunity. The second is that if you are able to have this transparency and this translation in terms of the effectiveness of the processes, in terms of speed of responses, there is absolutely no reason why, Mehak, this country cannot be part of the vision for Make in India.
All right, it's interesting to say that. Let me, with the Dil Ki Dhadkan Miss You Maggi campaign is something that we saw. It went viral on the internet as well. Previous to this, we've seen big celebrities endorse Maggi, and there's definitely a change. It just shows, that people do want it back on their shelves very soon. Take us through the process of getting Maggi back on its feet and how soon. I'm not going to hold you to a date on that. I understand you've explained that procedure. But what I do want to understand from you is there's been a whole chain which has been closed down, right? Your entire factories, there have been employees who've sort of been displaced, etc.
That's right.
How difficult is it going to be to get that chain started?
Look, Mehak, it's clearly an extremely challenging task. I am an optimist, but I'm also, my feet are firmly planted on the realism of the situation. There are really three big things that we need to do. The whole We Love You Too campaign was not something that we thought about. It is the flow that has come back from the consumers, because the brand has meant to the consumer far more than a noodle. Maggi has been integral parts of people's lives, their dreams, their hopes, their ambitions, and their moments. So that was what was translated by us in terms of those films, which are the everyday people, people like you and me, who are the ones who are consuming this brand and who really feel and miss the brand. So that obviously has become, as I speak to you, more than 4 million views have already come onto it in less than a week's time. And also it will probably exceed, I hope, one of the best campaigns that we had as Nestle, Share Your Happiness, which was done a couple of years back. So that's one part of it, which is really the consumer part of it. The supply chain and the value chain, most certainly, it is at the moment completely frozen. We have 5 factories that are shut. We have about 3,000 workers that are impacted. We have got 10,000 suppliers who are not supplying because we don't have a business. 1,500 distributors who are having suboptimal distribution systems. We have 400,000 farmers who are supplying us wheat flour. They don't have an outlet. The cost, the human cost of what has happened is far bigger, I would submit, than the numbers that are being indicated. 450 write-down that we had in the previous quarter,
right,
is just one manifestation of the financial impact, the people impact and the chain impact. I mean, there are so many people today who were selling Maggi in their stalls. Those guys have stopped. So the collateral damage of this has been high. It is my hope that because of the enduring relationships that we have maintained, and that's the strength of Nestle, the organization, with our suppliers, with our vendors, we should be able to bounce back, I would not say soon, but relatively soon, so that we are able to come up with the beloved Maggi, hopefully by the end of this year.
Hopefully by the end of this year, another quarter. Speaking of quarters and how you had that write-off, previous quarter, for the first time in 2 decades, I think 64 crores net loss, which was there. You're going to go into the next quarter earnings, which are going to come very soon as well. And before you go into a silent period, it's a one-time write-off which has happened, or there is going to be, that's why I keep going back to that question on what is going to prop up the bottom line till we get Maggi back on the shelves.
Look, obviously, I don't wish to speculate with you on what the further cost elements are going to be.
Okay.
I think that's premature for me to give a speculation on that. But the fact of the matter is that yes, there will be a comeback time for Maggi in terms of gaining the traction and coming back into what we believe is a steady state. There are initiatives that will be taken on the other categories in order to start going through a process of acceleration. It is my hope that in the coming months and years, we start having a more balanced portfolio, where we not just have Maggi and one or two other products, but we have a more holistic pattern of growth that we are able to impart in this country.
Right. Suresh, my last question to you is, because Maggi is a brand which is so close to consumers, there's a huge consumer connect. How are you looking at the first ever class action, suit which has been filed? Consumer Affairs Ministry went ahead and filed that. There's also a consumer body which is attached to it as well. How are you viewing that? I'm sure even emotionally, because there is a consumer connect to that.
Sure. No, obviously, I think, Mehak, as Nestle, we are extremely disappointed that we were having this class action suit of its first kind in the country, worth $100 million put on us. For us, fundamentally, Nestle is about trust, and that trust comes from quality. So the issues that have been raised in front of the NCDRC are issues that have been raised by the FSSAI in court and which have been substantially answered in the judgment of the Honorable High Court. Now, the fact of the matter is that when you have questioned the trust and credibility of the Nestle organization, in all humility, it is within my right to vigorously defend it. And that's what we will do.
Right. Thanks, Suresh, so much. I know some relief coming in there, but there's a long road ahead for you. We wish you all the best. And thanks so much for talking to us today.
Thank you very much, Mehak. I do hope that we are in business back relatively soon. And I hope to offer you a serving of Maggi the next time we meet.
Absolutely, Suresh. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.